The September sun hung low over Meadowbrook Estates, casting long shadows across the perfectly manicured lawns. I had just finished loading groceries into my kitchen when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of multiple car doors slamming in rapid succession, followed by loud voices and laughter echoing through the quiet cul-de-sac. I walked to my front window and peered through the curtains. My stomach dropped. At least 15 people were streaming out of various vehicles parked along the street, all carrying coolers, folding chairs, and what appeared to be party supplies. They were heading toward the back gate that led to the community pool area, the gate that sat directly between my property and Linda Hutchins' house. Linda Hutchins. Of course. For context, when the developer built our small subdivision 5 years ago, they created a unique situation. The community pool sat behind a row of 6 houses, including mine and Linda's. To access it, residents used a private gate that happened to be positioned on the property line between our 2 homes. Technically, my family owned the fence and gate on our side, while Linda owned hers. The HOA rules were crystal clear: the gate was for residents only, and each homeowner was responsible for ensuring their guests used the main pool entrance at the front of the community. Linda had never cared about that rule. Not once in the 3 years she'd lived here. I watched as she emerged from her house in a flowing kaftan, oversized sunglasses perched on her head, directing her guests like a general commanding troops. Just go through the back gate, everyone. It's so much easier than walking all the way around. My jaw clenched. This wasn't the first time. Every single party, every gathering, every small get-together that inevitably ballooned into a neighborhood disruption, Linda sent her guests through that back gate. I'd asked her politely to stop. I'd sent friendly text messages. I'd even brought it up at an HOA meeting, where Linda had rolled her eyes and said I was making a mountain out of a molehill. But today was different. Today, I'd had enough. I walked through my house to the back door and stepped into my yard. The gate was already open, swinging lazily on its hinges as Linda's guests filed through, trampling the edge of my flower bed in the process. One man in a Hawaiian shirt actually knocked over my garden gnome and didn't even notice. "Excuse me," I called out, my voice firm but controlled. A few heads turned, but most of Linda's guests ignored me completely, continuing their parade toward the pool. I could hear music starting up, someone testing a Bluetooth speaker with a bass-heavy song that made my windows rattle. I strode across my lawn to the gate. The last few stragglers were coming through, a couple carrying an enormous inflatable flamingo and 2 teenagers glued to their phones. "This gate is for residents only," I said, positioning myself in the opening. "The main entrance is at the front of the community." The couple with the flamingo stopped and blinked at me. "Oh, Linda said we could use this gate," the woman said, her voice uncertain. "Linda doesn't have the authority to make that decision," I replied, keeping my tone even. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but you'll need to go back through and use the main entrance." "Are you serious right now?" one of the teenagers muttered, loud enough for me to hear. Before I could respond, Linda's voice cut through the air like a siren. "What do you think you're doing?" She came storming across her lawn, her kaftan billowing behind her, her face already flushed with anger. Her guests parted like the Red Sea, all eyes now on the unfolding confrontation. "I'm enforcing the HOA rules," I said calmly, though my heart was pounding. "Your guests need to use the main entrance. That is shared property," Linda shrieked, jabbing a finger toward the gate. "You don't get to decide who uses it." "Actually, Linda, that's not true. The gate is on my property. I own this fence." I gestured to the section of privacy fence that ran along my yard. "And according to the HOA bylaws." "I don't care about your precious bylaws." Linda's voice had reached a pitch that probably scared birds out of trees 3 blocks away. "This is a shared amenity. You're being completely unreasonable." Several of her guests had their phones out now, and I could see they were recording. Perfect. Let them record. I had nothing to hide. "The pool is a shared amenity," I said, maintaining my composure. "This gate is not. If you'd like, I can show you the HOA documents right now. I have them on my phone." "I am not interested in your document." Linda took a step closer, her face now inches from mine. I could smell her perfume, something overpowering and floral. "My guests are already here. They're already settled in. You are ruining my party with your petty nonsense. Your parties have been disrupting this neighborhood for months, I said, my voice rising slightly despite my best efforts. Every single time, you ignore the rules. Every single time, you let your guests trample through my yard, leave trash on my property, and use facilities they're not authorized to use. Oh, here we go. The victim act. Linda threw her hands up dramatically. Everyone, look at the poor homeowner who has to deal with people walking near her precious flowers. Some of her guests laughed. Others looked uncomfortable, shifting their weight and avoiding eye contact. Linda, I said, taking a deep breath. I'm going to close and lock this gate now. Your guests are welcome to attend your party, they just need to use the proper entrance. That's all I'm asking. You will not lock that gate. Yes, I will. I reached for the gate handle, and Linda lunged forward, grabbing the other side. For a moment, we stood there in an absurd tug-of-war, both gripping the metal gate between our properties. This is assault. Linda screamed. Everyone, you're all witnesses. She's assaulting me. I'm not touching you, Linda. I'm closing my gate. Shared property. Each word came out as a separate shriek. I let go of the gate suddenly, and Linda stumbled backward, nearly falling. She caught herself on her own fence, breathing hard, her face purple with rage. You're going to hear from my lawyer, she hissed. And from the HOA board. I'm filing a formal complaint. You're harassing me and my guests. Please do, I said. And while you're at it, I'll be filing my own complaint about your continued violation of community rules. I have photos, timestamps, and witness statements from other neighbors who are tired of your parties. That got her attention. Linda's eyes narrowed. You wouldn't dare. Try me. We stood there, locked in a silent standoff. Her guests had gone quiet, the festive atmosphere evaporating into awkward tension. Even the music had been turned down. Finally, Linda stepped back. Fine, she spat. Everyone, we'll go around to the front entrance. Because apparently, some people care more about rules than being good neighbors. Good neighbors follow the rules, I replied quietly. Linda shot me a look of pure venom before turning on her heel. Come on, everyone. Let's go around. Sorry for the inconvenience caused by certain petty individuals. Her guests began filing back through the gate, this time heading out to the street. A few mumbled apologies in my direction. Most just looked embarrassed. As the last person exited, I swung the gate closed and pulled out the padlock I'd installed just that morning, anticipating exactly this scenario. The click of the lock sliding into place was one of the most satisfying sounds I'd ever heard. Linda stopped in her tracks, spinning around at the sound. You did not just lock that gate. I did. And it will remain locked except when I'm using it. As is my right as the property owner. This isn't over, Linda said, her voice now low and menacing. Not even close. I'm counting on it, I replied. She stormed off, herding her confused guests around the long way to the pool entrance. I watched them go, then turned and walked back into my house, my hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline. 2 hours later, I received an email from the HOA president. Linda had indeed filed a complaint. But attached to that email was a response from the HOA attorney, clearly stating that the gate was private property, that I had every right to control access to it, and that Linda had been in violation of community rules. The email ended with a notice that Linda would be fined for her repeated violations and that any future infractions would result in additional penalties. I sat at my kitchen table, reading the email 3 times to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Then I walked to my back window and looked out at the locked gate, standing firm and secure between my property and Linda's. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. From the pool area, I could still hear music and laughter, noticeably quieter than Linda's usual parties. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my neighbor 2 houses down. Heard what happened. Thank you. Some of us have been afraid to say anything. Then another text, from a different neighbor. You're a hero. Seriously. I smiled, set my phone down, and poured myself a well-deserved glass of wine. The gate would stay locked. The rules would be followed. And Linda Hutchins would finally learn that shared property didn't mean she got to do whatever she wanted. Sometimes, standing your ground isn't about being petty. It's about setting boundaries and refusing to let entitled people run roughshod over everyone else. And sometimes, the most satisfying sound in the world is the click of a lock.